Hey, everybody, an extraordinary guest today from Hewlett Packard Labs and HP Enterprise. Dan, how are you?
I'm excellent. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for joining. I've admired your career for some time. It's an extraordinary one and a fascinating time to talk about some of the key tech themes in the industry today. Before that, maybe introduce yourself, your fascinating career with Hewlett Packard Labs, and your work these days.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and it's a great pleasure to be here. I've been following your podcasts as well. So my name is Dejan Milojicic. I work at Hewlett Packard Labs, where I am fellow and VP. I lead a team of scientists, remarkable scientists. So all my successes are at least as success of my team members as well as a number of my colleagues. I work in the system software. We do all kinds of things related to heterogeneous and serverless computing. And I have a bunch of other things, but it will take a whole podcast, so I'll skip those.
Well, lots to unpack here. Let's start with the big picture. You talk about not just trends, but mega trends, which we're
That's right.
living through now. What's top of mind to you, and what is your work, your professional and personal interests focus on these days?
Yeah. So everyone talks about AI. People even jump to talk about artificial general intelligence, and that is indeed one of our mega trends. And it's interesting that when we started defining mega trends, and when you say mega trend, you can't have dozen of them. You can have less than a handful. So we were thinking, what would these three mega trends be? And it was about 3, 4 years just before ChatGPT came about. At that point of time, we felt metaverse is one of the trends. That's kind of over compassing thing. But then ChatGPT, generative AI came about, and it was clear to us that at least in the foreseeable future, AGI would be one of the megatrends. And if you think also about these megatrends, they permeate everything. And when I look at my daily work, for example, applied AI is everywhere. It's almost like computer science happened maybe 30 years ago, 20, 30 years ago, when it became popular, and there are a few people doing computer science. Now everyone is doing, everyone's doing programming. So the same is true with applied AI. It's simply everywhere. I'm sure somewhere in your podcast you'll have AI editing my own words as we speak.
Yeah, it's there today. And what was the thought process behind selecting these kind of three mega trends? How did you settle on these? And you've been involved in the cutting edge of technology for so many years. How long have you been focused on these?
So for megatrends, we really have focused about 2 years, but this
Mm.
whole technology predictions business, I entered almost as a hobby, and by coincidence. I still remember it was actually on the East Coast where you were sitting somewhere. We met, it was Industry Advisory Board of Computer Society, where Chris Jensen, at that time, the marketing manager, asked us to suggest a few technologies that we think are popular. She wanted to do that for the purpose of editorial calendars, knowing what is happening, etc. And then year by year, we made it into a regular event. And I'm not going to talk about these technology predictions that are a little bit different, but they influenced us dramatically. And we gathered within Future Directions Committee, and we decided what will megatrends be. And everyone have their own pet technology. There are favorite colleagues of mine who think health is the most important. Hey, Dan, you have no
Mm.
idea. It's all about health, etc., etc. So at the end, I had to draw a picture, one single graph. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it had on outer circle, what are the grand challenges of which health, aging and these kinds of things are one. There's issues with um, smart cities and all kinds of things, grand challenges in terms of sustainability, etc. Then the other concentrated circle, inner circle, was how you apply these technologies. Then even inner circle would be technologies, And then only in the very middle, there were three megatrends. And we selected AGI that I already mentioned, sustainability and digital transformation. But people weren't happy even then. Then some people would come and say, "Hey, Dan, but ethics is megatrend today, or it's all kinds of other things related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, et cetera, et cetera." So we had to insist that, yeah, these are very important things, but they are principles, they're general principles. So however you do it, in the end, it's community that decided what the megatrends would be. And we ended up with these three that I mentioned: AGI as the incoming, sustainability, and digital transformation that has been there with us for a while.
Fantastic. And IEEE plays an important role in your work, and you play an important role in the IEEE. I'm a double E, but long lapsed IEEE member, but I love their content. Maybe explain your involvement in the IEEE and their role in evaluating these trends
Yeah,
and what's next.
Yeah, so like with the history of these megatrends, there's a long history of my involvement. There's near-term history. I've been for many years, too many to even remember, played many roles, including IEEE Computer Society president. I was even running for president of the whole IEEE. I lost that race. But I ended up with a small community that I actually like most because there's zero politics, it's all technology. And this little exotic island is called Future Directions Committee. I simply love it. And I played the role of industry advisory board chair there. And it happened, as I said, about 2, 3 years ago when I was suddenly offered a huge shoes to fill. There was a gentleman, an outstanding gentleman and technologist. His name was Roberto Soracco, who unfortunately in the meanwhile passed away, but he stepped down and he offered to me. And I was hesitant to do anything, but he simply convinced me. Now, to your point, or how does IEEE play the role in these megatrends? I think it's an outstanding role in a way that all these different opinion, we all get in the room. You should at least once come and see that. There's about 50 to 100 people from time to time, and you come in that room and it feels like, they all come prepared with rotten tomatoes, banana peel. They throw all at me, but at the end of that meeting in 2 hours, after which I'm exhausted, we come up with something that is really beautiful and that stood the test of all these tomatoes. So you can't come up with something that isn't right. So that's in a nutshell. I hope visually you can guess how it looks like.
Fantastic. And we've seen some of these mega trends creeping into our daily lives, but how do you see them becoming integral to the average person on the street, as it were, and how?
Well, you can take any device. If
Mhm.
you are old timer, you probably are not driving Tesla, but for sure, most people were forced to have intelligent phones. So if you look at that digital phone, starting with digital transformation, all your favorite apps from the past, those of us who used to read newspapers were thrown in our backyards, now they appear on the phone. So they were digitally transformed, and I can go on and on. So many applications. The sustainability, you buy the phones with the longest battery lifetime. But even then, all these services that are running on your phone, you want them to consume as less energy as possible. And finally, AI. I mean, your voice when you talk, it's adapted using AI. There are all kinds of apps that you interact with AI. There are pictures that you take. Most people take pictures nowadays with a phone. You can modify it. So I can go on, and that's just at the end. If you go to the back end, I mean that was at the edge. If you go to the back end data centers, it's exactly the same picture. All these services are running in some data centers, hyperscaler, private cloud, wherever. They have to be sustainable. People are very worrisome about energy. They're bringing even nuclear reactors nowadays. All these hyperscalers and others are thinking about it. And then the reason they do that is because of AI, because all this training is consuming so much energy.
Yeah, yeah, fascinating times. And the trends are also much more than just technology. For us geeks to think about that, they connect with, larger societal, economic,
Yeah,
ecological shifts that are happening. Um, how do you see the tech impacting us as a society in the
yeah.
medium term, long term?
Exactly. And before I answer that question, even these three megatrends, they're intertwined. So digital transformation causes things to be more sustainable, and sustainability enables AGI. In a similar way, it's just as you very correctly pointed out, these are just technology megatrends. There are also economical megatrends that drive everything. Without economy, you can't do that. There's also ecological, which is crucial for sustainability, but also for other things. And then there's socio-political, which is as equally important. So all these four influence each other. I mean, I remember one of the we are holding these special issues of IEEE Computer on technology predictions, and one paper, maybe 4 or 5 years, which is one of the most downloaded, was about drones. And these 4 or 5 years ago, drones were envisioned to be delivering food and these kinds of things. And roll the time up. You have the war nowadays, very unfortunate. But these drones are doing the same thing. They are delivering
Mm.
ammunition, but also food to stranded people in Middle East. They're delivering water where water is scarce thing. So they all influence other social political through governance, regulatory compliance, but also through unfortunate things like war. So that, this planet is little, and all these factors influence each other. Slow down and speed up.
Totally get it. Um, so I love looking at business leader surveys and CEO surveys and what's on their mind from quarter to quarter. It's funny how it changes. One thing that's top of mind this year is not on their mind next year in the C-suite and vice versa. But when it comes to megatrends, what should these business leaders do right now to embrace these megatrends, drive
Yeah.
opportunities, productivity, and impact, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah. So mega trends are not changing at dramatic pace as either industry or even individual technologies are.
Mm,
Megatrends are there to show to us what is this bigger circle within these individual technologies are doing. So I am when I draw the curves of evolution of technologies, there's favorite Gartner curve, which applies to every individual technologies. I'm not going to explain it. Most of you know it. But megatrends, because they encompass multiple of these technologies, if you will, you are integrating these multiple Gartner hype curves, and what you end up with is something like S curve. And they go for about 20 years. And when I tell to some of my colleagues who are building these megatrends reports, and I tell them digital transformation is at the end of its S curve, they said, no, Dan. And they're absolutely right. I'm wrong. These digital transformation will go on forever. It will slow down. The new megatrend will eventually come, but it goes on. It is at the end tail. Sustainability is probably of not most popular, but it's being spoke about by all these CEOs who are making promises about carbon neutral and all kinds of things. And then AGI is the most popular kid in the town. It just started in its 20-year cycle, but it's doing a fire really. It's taking everything and being deployed everywhere.
Yeah, and as these megatrends develop, I think industry leaders need to start preparing for shifts in talent needs and upskilling, reintroduction of learning of these new tools. But what else? What are you seeing as needed by industry leaders for the next generation of employees and educators?
Yeah, well, skills is probably the most important. When
Mm,
these CEOs and CTOs talk, for example, about AI, their primary goal is not to sell AI. The primary goal is to educate their forces. And they're
mm,
extremely smart because, there's all saying by a gentleman who developed Microsoft Windows and before that VAX operating system, who said, eat your own dog food. You're not going to give your dog to eat something that you wouldn't eat. Why would you do that? You want your healthy dog, you want healthy yourself. So the first and foremost thing for all these enterprises and their leaders is to educate their own forces. So that means they need to first learn how to use it. But there's a bigger picture, and it applies not only to AI. AI is it's like a headlight, deer in the headlight. We're all forced with it, but the same is true with sustainability. Let me explain to you. Everyone's trying to learn nowadays PyTorch, ChatGPT, how you're going to do that. But even for that, if you do it not careful enough, you're going to waste too much time, but even more so importantly, energy, which you don't. So the same is applied equally to AI as it is to sustainability, as it is to digital transformation. So there are also the broader movement. So you can think about the whole skills going away. And it has been happening for a while with these call centers where, first there's a whole history of that. I'm not going to go all the way, but they were consolidated. Then they outsourced them to India. Then they consolidated once India became expansive, consolidated them in various parts of the world. Nowadays, it's ChatGPT and these agents that are taking over and answering. When you call to report anything, you first get agent. So this whole issue of support system administrators is slowly going away, and but the whole new slew of jobs like AI programmers, data scientists, they are coming into the play. So if you remember, and I'll stop very quickly, if you remember when US, for example, was very concerned about the all jobs going to Taiwan, TSMC, and other companies, we were afraid, the whole digital industry is going, well, that's not true. We started developing CPUs. In US, we focus nowadays on accelerators. So it's a shifting target. It's typical innovator's dilemma. The new cheaper things are being taking over incumbents, but they are pushed up, but then over the time they become incumbents themselves.
So yeah, let's dive into the future of work. It is changing, has changed dramatically through the pandemic with hybrid work. And I guess there's two camps, it seems, emerging. There's the half glass full camp that see AI as a tremendous opportunity to free us of and unburden us of what has been and give us new skills and new superpowers. Then there's the sort of half glass empty view of job destruction, particularly with certain jobs and certain verticals. So where do you stand on this continuum, or is it sort of too early to say?
Well, this is not the first time. There was ludicist
Mm.
movement, if you remember, machine are going to take over the world, and people were competing in mines to be faster than machines and all that. I'll give you an interesting observation. So, and then I'll answer directly your question.
Mhm.
So, we wrote a whole paper on that, on the future of AGI, and we came up. A colleague of mine actually wrote a very nice text on it, and I'm more visual. I like pictures and tables, so I put it in the table, and there were various scenarios what will happen, and I presented to that same room that I was mentioning with Rotten Tomatoes, etc. And
Mm.
one very smart guy who's actually running podcasts just like you looked at me and said, Dan, well, you are missing one scenario. I said, what is missing? He said, well, all your scenarios are pessimistic for human kind, and only one is optimistic at the end. But you are missing pessimistic scenario for AI. What if AI fails altogether? And I looked at him and I said, you're absolutely right. We had AI winter maybe 30 years ago. I remember when I was trying to do my PhD, I wanted to do in AI. Luckily, I didn't. And it was all over. There are agents, AI, natural language processing, everything. And that suddenly went away. And then it came back with accelerators. So what I'm trying to say is today it's extremely popular in general, but it's being at the moment limited by energy and accelerators that it can deliver. We don't know what will happen next. It can explode even more so if, for example, quantum computing or equivalent computing comes enables it and becomes even more powerful, or it will just stay where it is and it won't go. Now, you ask me whether I'm glass half full or glass half empty on this question. Usually, people tell me that I'm glass heaping. I'm overflowing, but I'm trying to take a balanced answer on this one. I think that AI is just like any other tool. It's there to help us, and hopefully, it will remain a tool, make us more effective. Now, obviously, glass half empty, glass completely empty. People say that AGI will take over, it will duplicate, it will create parallel worlds, it will go away, it will, slave us, etc. I don't think it will happen. The worst things that could happen is that it's being unmonitored, ungoverned, so that there are uses of AI that are unethical. But the same is true for other technologies, for sustainability. There are unethical sustainability issues. We wrote even paper on that. So one just has to be careful. I am not. There's no big issues with me. I think we just need to be careful and evolve technology, ethics, governance, regulations, etc.
Well said. So what are you looking forward to the rest of this year within Hewlett Packard Labs and IEEE? Any particular events, get-togethers, meetups that you're excited about?
Well, there will be a coming board meeting where we meet for these 2 hours. I'm looking forward to presenting there. In the meanwhile, we'll have the new rollout of computer society technology predictions, which weave into Megatrends. So we'll revisit it. What we are doing with these technology predictions at the every end of the year, we do a scorecard how well we've done. So these technology predictions will also serve as a scorecard for megatrends to see, because you can't talk about megatrends for 20 years about the same thing. So what we've done with megatrends, we came up with technologies below them. So for 6 technologies below each of these megatrends. So we'll compare these with incoming new technologies as predicted. We also made proposals for, I think this year, 7 South by Southwest panels. I made proposal for 2 of them. We had a very successful one last year, which was about AGI and its influence on workforce. We'll repeat that one, and the other one will be on sustainability. So guess what? I picked up my 2 favorite megatrends. So we'll see whether they'll get accepted. And then at work, there's always something to do. There are fundamentally what we do is we try to develop new technologies, but we also write papers, patents. So it's a never-ending story. Before jumping on this call, I just reviewed 1 patent applications. There are more waiting and papers and all of that. So it's definitely not boring. It's very exciting living here in Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. Well, you're right in Palo Alto in the heart of it. And congratulations on the amazing work, and can't wait to get intermittent updates. Thanks, Dan, for joining.
Thank you. It was a pleasure joining your podcast.
And thanks, everyone. Thanks for watching, listening, and look forward to our next chat. Take care.